September 6, 1900, Volume 4, The State of Victim. My most sweet Jesus continues to come. This morning, as soon as he came, he wanted to pour a little bit of his bitternesses into me, and then he told me, "My daughter, I want to sleep a little, and you, do my office of suffering, praying and placating justice." So he fell asleep, and I began to pray near Jesus. Later, as he woke, we went round a little in the midst of people, and he showed me several conspiracies that they are making in order to provoke a revolution. Especially, I noticed a sudden assault they were plotting so as to better achieve their intent, and so that no one might be able to defend and guard himself against the enemy. How many gloomy scenes! However, it seems that the Lord is not yet giving them the freedom to do this, and not knowing the reason, they are consumed with rage, because in spite of their perverse will, they see themselves powerless to do it. It takes nothing else but the Lord to concede this freedom to them, for everything is ready. After this we came back, and Jesus showed himself all wounded, and said to me, "See how many wounds they have opened in me, and the necessity of the continuous state of victim, of your sufferings, because there is not a moment in which they spare me offenses. And since the offenses are continuous, continuous must be the sufferings and the prayers, so that I may be spared. And if you see that your suffering is suspended, tremble and fear, because not seeing myself relieved in my pains, may it not be that I concede to the enemies that freedom so yearned for by them." On hearing this, I began to pray that he would let me suffer. And in the meantime I saw the confessor who, with his intentions, pressed Jesus to make me suffer. Then blessed Jesus shared with me such and so many pains that I myself do not know how I remained alive. However, the Lord did not leave me alone in my pains. On the contrary, it seemed he did not have the heart to leave me. And so I spent several days together with Jesus, and he communicated many graces to me, and made me comprehend many things. However, partly because of the suffering state, partly because I am unable to express myself, I move on and keep silent. September 6, 1905, Volume 6, The Evil of Lack of Attention. This morning, after I struggled very much, I saw our Lord crucified. I was kissing the wounds of his hands, and repairing and praying that he would sanctify, perfect, purify all human works for the sake of what he suffered in his most holy hands. And blessed Jesus told me, "My daughter, the works which most exacerbate my hands, and which most embitter and enlarge my wounds, are the good works done without attention. In fact, lack of attention takes life away from the good work, and things which have no life are always near to rotting. Therefore they nauseate me. And for the human eye, a good work done without attention is a greater scandal than sin itself. In fact, it is known that sin is darkness, and it is no wonder that darkness gives no life. But the good work which is light and gives darkness offends the human eye so much that it is no longer able to find light, and therefore it finds an obstacle on the path of good." September 6, 1908, Volume 8, Jesus wanted to suffer in order to reunite everything to himself. Continuing in my usual state, I was thinking about the mystery of the scourging. And as Jesus came, pressing his hand on my shoulders, I heard him say in my interior, "My daughter, I wanted my flesh to be scattered in pieces, and my blood to be shed from my whole humanity, so as to reunite all of dispersed humanity. In fact, of all that was torn from my humanity, flesh, blood, hair, nothing was dispersed in my resurrection, but everything was reunited again to my humanity. By this I incorporated all creatures within me. So after this, if one wanders away from me, it is out of his obstinate will that he tears himself from me to go out and be lost." September 6, 1911, Volume 10. One who pays attention to herself grows thin and emaciated. It continues almost always in the same way. That is, with most bitter privation and with silence. At most he only makes himself seen, and at most it is about usual things. Therefore I do not write them. I remember that when I emit some laments about my state, he tells me in my interior, "My daughter Patience, do this as a stalwart, as a heroine. Courage, let me chastise for now, and then I will come as before." I also remember that as I was concerned about my state, he told me, "My daughter, one who wants to pay attention to difficulties, to doubts, to herself, is like those fussy persons who feel disgust for everything, and instead of thinking about nourishing themselves, they think of the rubbish, even if it's not there, and therefore they grow thin, emaciated, and so they die." Some other little things I don't remember well. Then this morning, as I was outside of myself, I found baby Jesus in my arms, crying so very strongly because he heard that they wanted to cast him away from Italy. We made our way toward France, and they did not want to receive him. And my always lovable Jesus, crying, said, "Everyone drives me away. No one wants me. And I, forced by them themselves, will scourge them." In the meantime, I saw roads full of rocks, of fire, with great damage to the cities. Did you see? Let us retreat, my daughter. Let us retreat. And so we retreated into my bed, and he disappeared. Then, after a few days, as I was praying him to placate himself because of the many scourges that one hears about, he told me, "My daughter, they treat me like a dog, and I will make them kill one another like dogs." Oh God, what heartbreak! Placate yourself, O Lord, placate yourself. September 6, 1912, Volume 11. The ones who experience the benefits of having Jesus close to themselves. Continuing in my usual state, blessed Jesus came and told me, "My daughter, I am inside and outside the souls. But who experiences the effects of this? The one who approaches my will with his will, the one who calls me, who prays, and knows my power and the good I can do for him. Otherwise, it happens as to that man who has water in his home, but doesn't go to it to take a drink. Even if there is water, he does not enjoy the benefit of it and burns with thirst. In the same way, if he is cold, he does not approach the fire to get warm. Although the fire is there, he will not enjoy the benefit of its heat, and so on with all the rest. What is not my sorrow in wanting to give, while there is nobody to take my benefits? September 6, 1913, Volume 11, Value, Effects, and Divine Nobility of Doing the Hours of the Passion. I was thinking about the hours of the Passion which have now been written, and how they are without any indulgence. So those who do them do not gain anything, while there are many prayers enriched with many indulgences. While I was thinking of this, my always adorable Jesus, all kindness, told me, "My daughter, one gains something through the prayers with indulgences, but the hours of my passion, which are my own prayers, my reparations, and all my love, came really from the depth of my heart. Did you perhaps forget how many times I united myself with you to do them together, and I turned chastisements into graces over the entire earth? So my satisfaction is such that instead of the indulgence, I give the soul a handful of love, which contains infinite love of incalculable price. Further, when things are done for pure love, my love finds its outpouring, and it is not inconsiderable that the creature can give relief and expression to the love of her Creator. September 6, 1921, Volume 13. As the truths are known, new union with Jesus is formed. Jesus wants to make known what his will did in his humanity, in order to constitute the new generation as heirs of his will, and of the effects and the value it contains. I was fusing all of myself in the holy will of my sweet Jesus, and I said to him, "My love, I enter into your will, and here I find all the thoughts of your mind, and all those of creatures. I surround your thoughts with my thoughts, and with those of all my brothers, and then I unite them together, making them one, in order to give you the homage, the adoration, the glory, the love, the reparation of your own intelligence." While I was saying this, my Jesus moved in my interior, and standing up told me, "Inseparable daughter of my will, how happy I am in hearing repeated what my humanity did in my will. And I kiss your thoughts in mine, your words in mine, your heartbeat in mine." And as he was saying this, he covered all of me with kisses. Then I said to him, "My life, why do you enjoy so much and make feast every time you manifest another effect of your will?" And Jesus, "You must know that every time I manifest to you one more truth about my will, it is one more bond that I form between you and me, and with the whole human family. It is a greater union. It is a tighter link. It is a sharing my inheritances. And as I manifest them, I form the deed of donation. And in seeing my children richer and sharing in the inheritance, I feel new contentments, and I make feast. It happens to me as to a father who possesses much land, and this land is unknown to his children. They do not know that they are children of a father so rich. Now, as the children come of age, the father keeps telling them day after day that he possesses such and such farm. On hearing this, the children make feast and cling to the father with a greater bond of love. In seeing the feast of the children, the father makes feast and prepares for them another greater surprise, saying to them, "Such province is mine," and then, "Such kingdom." The children are enchanted, and they not only celebrate, but believe themselves fortunate to be the children of this father. And the father not only makes his possessions known to his children, but he constitutes them heirs of his goods. the same happens to me. Up until now, I have made known what my humanity did, its virtues, its pains, in order to constitute the human family as heir of the goods of my humanity. Now I want to move forward, and I want to make known to it what my will did in my humanity, so as to constitute the new generations as heirs of my will, of the effects and the value it contains. Therefore be attentive in listening to me, and do not lose anything of the effects and the value of this will of mine, so that you may be the faithful bearer of these goods, the first link of union with my will, and of communication with the other creatures. September 6, 1923, Volume 16. One who is a dwelling for Jesus on earth is also kept by him in his heart in heaven. Let us never forget the love of God, and to love him for all. When the love for God ceases, there begins sin. I felt petrified with pain because of the privation of my sweet Jesus. It seems to me that even his flashes, his shadow, are decreasing. My only support in his privation, which like little drops of dew sustain the poor little plant of my soul, burned and withered by his privation, giving it a thread of life so as to not let it die. However, I was all resigned to his will, and I tried as much as I could to continue my interior acts, as when I used to take flight together with Jesus in his most holy will. But oh, how differently I made them! I did them badly, not finding all in order to give my God to all. So I was saying in my interior, "My Jesus, in your will I unite my thoughts to yours, and since your thoughts circulate in each created intelligence, I want every thought to draw from yours the love of your intelligence, in order to place each thought of creature into the flight of love. This flight goes up into heaven, before the Supreme Majesty, and blending with the eternal love, draws the love of the most holy Trinity upon earth, over all creatures." Now, while I was doing this and other things, my adorable Jesus moved in my interior, and sighing, told me, "My daughter, you cannot be without me, but even less can I be without you. Everything you feel in your heart is me. Your anxieties, your sighs, the martyrdom you suffer being deprived of me, are me. Those are my heartbeats which resound in you, bringing you my pains, hiding me from you. And so when love can no longer resist, surpassing justice, it forces me to unveil myself." And as he was saying this, he made himself seen. My God, who can tell how reborn I felt? Then he added, "My daughter, you gave me a dwelling in you on earth, and I keep you in heaven inside my heart. So while being on earth, you are with me in heaven." The divinity delights with the little daughter of the Supreme Volition, having her in heaven with itself. And since we have our little daughter in heaven and on earth, it is not worthwhile for us to destroy the earth, as justice would want to do, since creatures deserve it. At the most, many cities will disappear. The earth will open abysses in several places, making lands and people disappear, and wars will decimate it. But out of regard for our little daughter, we will not destroy it, having given her the task to make our will live on earth. Therefore pluck up courage. Do not lose heart too much during my absence. Know that I cannot last too long without making myself seen. I myself cannot do this, and you will never, never cease to love me, not only for yourself, but also for all our dear brothers. In fact, do you want to know why Adam sinned? because he forgot that I loved him, and he forgot to love me. This was the first seed of his fall. Had he thought that I loved him very much, and that he was obliged to love me, he would never have decided to disobey me. So first love ceased, and then began sin. And as soon as he stopped loving his God, true love for himself ceased. His members and powers rebelled against him. He lost dominion, order, and he became fearful. And not only this, but true love toward other creatures ceased, while I had created him with the same love which reigned among the divine persons, in which one was to be the image of the other, the happiness, the joy, and life of the other. This is why, coming upon earth, the thing to which I gave greatest importance was that they love one another as they were loved by me, in order to give them my first love, to let the love of the Most Holy Trinity breathe over the earth. Therefore, in all your pains and privations, never forget that I love you very much, so as to never forget to love me. And as daughter of our will, you have the task to love me for all. In this way you will remain in order, and you will fear nothing. September 6, 1924, Volume 17. How grave and sorrowful is the state of the Church. As I was in my usual state, I found myself outside of myself, and to my surprise, I found a woman lying in the middle of a street, all full of wounds and with her limbs all dislocated. Not one bone was in its place. The woman, though in such a sorry state as to seem to be the true portrait of pain, was beautiful, noble, majestic. But at the same time she moved one to pity, in seeing her abandoned by all, exposed to anyone who wanted to harm her. So moved to compassion, I looked around to see if there was anyone who would help me to lift her from the ground and bring her to a safe place. And oh, marvel, at my side there was a young man who seemed to be Jesus. So together we lifted her from the ground, but at every movement she suffered harrowing pains, due to the dislocation of her bones. So, little by little, we carried her into a palace, upon a bed, and together with Jesus, who seemed to love this woman so much as to wanting to give his life in order to save her and restore her health, we took the dislocated members in our hands to put them in place. At the touch of Jesus, the bones took their place, and that woman was transformed into a beautiful and graceful child. I was surprised by this, and Jesus said to me, "My daughter, this woman is the image of my church. She is always noble, full of majesty, and holy, because her origin is from the Son of the Celestial Father. But in what sorrowful state did the members incorporated into her reduce her? Unhappy to live as saints, as she does, they brought her into the middle of the street, exposing her to cold, to mockery, to blows. And her very children, like dislocated members, living in the middle of the street, have given themselves to all sorts of vices. The love of interest, which is predominant in them, makes them blind, and they commit the ugliest evils, living near her to wound her and to say to her continuously, 'Be crucified, be crucified.' In what a sorrowful state my church is. Those ministers who should defend her are her most cruel executioners. But in order for her to be reborn, it is necessary to destroy these members and to incorporate innocent members with no self-interest, so that through these, living like her, she may return to be a beautiful and graceful child as I constituted her, without malice, more than a simple child, in order to grow strong and holy. Here is the necessity that the enemies move battle. In this way the infected members will be purged. You pray and suffer, that everything may be for my glory. September 6, 1937, Volume 35, Purpose of Creation. Speaking and operating life of God in the creation. God's Word, the divine will. How one who does his own will risks the divine. I am in the arms of the divine volition. It loves me so much that it doesn't let me leave its more than paternal arms, to keep me and raise me as it wants and pleases. And if it hears me saying that I love it, oh, how it celebrates, forming around me the seas of its love that tell me in every instant, I love you, I love you. Then my sweet Jesus, visiting my poor soul, finding me in the arms of his will, all joyful said to me, My blessed daughter, how I love finding you always all abandoned in these arms. Your destiny is assured. You will live on our same food. We will have common goods. You must know that the only purpose for creation was exactly this. Creation had to serve as the residence for man, while man had to serve as our residence. We wanted to form as many of our lives, or as many creatures as we delivered to daylight. Each of them had to possess our life, a speaking and operating life, since we cannot be wherever we are without saying or doing anything. Otherwise it would be as if we formed many prisons for ourselves, prisons that would impose on us silence and uselessness. Our Supreme Being speaks and operates. The Word calls the works, and the works manifest who we are, forming such beatitudes and joys as to delight us, as well as those who live with us. Therefore each one of our words and works is a new joy and happiness that we create for us. This is why we want to form within man our speaking and operating life, because we had to form such wonders of our divine being as to create new and always more beautiful creations. We wanted to show and give the way to all that we can do and know how to do, the way to our new joy and happiness. And where does all this go? Inside our residence of man. But would you like to know who our word is? It is our will. It is the operator of our works, the narrator of our divine being, the bearer and keeper of our life in the creature. Without it, we do not move from our throne, neither do we form any life in any residence. See the great necessity to possess our divine will and to live in it? With it we can do everything, deliver our most beautiful works, maintain our scope in force, form the lives of our being, as many as we want. Without our will, all is hampered, obstructed our love, obstructed our power, arrested our works. One could say that we remain as a God mute for the creatures. What ingratitude! What a crime to reduce us to silence. While we wanted to honor the creatures with our life in them, as the residences for our delights and wonders, they have rejected us, not giving us the freedom to form that life. In our place they gave residence to passions, sin, and the most ugly vices. Poor man without our will, without divine purpose. It would be as if he wanted to live without breath, heartbeat, or blood circulation, which are the foundations of human life. What life could he ever have? Wouldn't that be just like killing himself on the spot? Such would be our life in the creature, with no heartbeat, no motion, and no word. It would be a tormenting, oppressive life, and he will end up dying. It is true that we involve everyone with our power and immensity. We are in everyone and everywhere. But lacking our divine volition within themselves, they never hear us talking. They understand nothing of our Supreme Being. And even if they live in our immensity, it is because no one can escape from us. So they do not feel as though they were our sons, but as strangers to us. What pain, having so many things to say and being silent, having the power of doing who knows how many wonders, and not being able to do them because our will does not reign within them. And yet our love is such that it does not stop. We are all eyes to watch whoever wants to live in our will, all ears to listen to whoever calls it to live within herself, all love to place our great love upon the little love of the creature. As soon as we see her disposed, we form our speaking life, and we tell her the story of our will, the long story of our eternal love. How much we love her, how many sighs calling for love. You must know that when we love, without finding anyone who loves us, our love does not know where to lean to be loved in return. So it goes wandering around, bursts into delirious fidgets, and if it doesn't find even a little I love you from a creature on which to lean, it withdraws back into ourselves, to where we keep our center of love. But it does it with a pain that a created mind cannot comprehend. The sufferings of a love not returned are unspeakable. They surpass all other pains. We want to give always. We are in continuous act of giving. But we want to find her will, willing to receive. A desire, a sigh, as the place, the little shelves on which to place our will, and all that we want to give and do. These desires and sighs are like ears that listen to us, eyes that look at us, hearts that love us, minds that comprehend us. If we do not find these little shelves, we cannot give her anything, and she remains blind, deaf, mute, and with no heart. Therefore our will is put into flight, and it returns to the shelter of our celestial regions. Then I continued to think about the divine will. I felt completely invested by it, and I prayed my dear Jesus to help me and keep me locked inside his heart, so that I could live and know nothing other than his will. And he, coming back, continued, "My daughter, all the goods of the creature are tied to my will. If she unties herself from it, all her goods are finished. You must know that every single time she does her human will, she loses the divine will with all its goods. So she loses all that is beautiful, all that is holy and good. This is an incalculable loss. The poor creature is thrown into the most wretched misery. She loses her rights over all goods, and she is invested by such unhappiness as to leave her constantly restless. Even if it seems that she may have some goods, these are only apparent. They end up torturing her completely. On the other hand, every time that she decides to do my divine will in total firmness, she loses her human will, the miseries, and the passions. She loses all the evils, the miserable rags, and the filthy clothes that the human will had formed. What a happy loss! Losing evils and miseries is glory and victory. It is honor. But losing the goods is cowardice and dishonor. See then, if the creature wants, she can recover from the great loss of my will, loss that she suffered by doing her own will, more so since she will receive the help of our power, our love, and our own will. By acquiring again the rights over all goods, all will defend her in order to recover from the lost game. End of September 6th. Fiat.